Secunda Estrata.
I think we're reading from the same pages.
Oh, are we? Maybe.
I think so. I don't know.
What page were you on?
There's no numbers. I was looking.
There's no numbers. Oh, I think we're on different pages. Different pages, same book.
Not far off.
I love how we're both doing the bit now. I'm incredibly jealous of how much nicer your book looks, by the way, compared to mine. Yours has this nice sheen, shiny look to it. Mine is just dull.
Yeah, well, mine's newer because I got it with the game pre-order, so probably souped up there.
I need to get another one. I also need to stop using this because, you can see some of the wear and tear on it.
Yeah,
coming in. A slight humble brag.
It will be a sad day when we start an episode and you're not reading from the book. That'll be like, people will be like, what the fuck happened?
That won't happen. I'm going to make sure I get another one to preserve, especially since slight humble brag. Only a slight humble brag. This one is very special because
I'm so jealous.
You got to visit the States more often, buddy.
I know. I need to get down for a convention or something. Anyways, we should probably start the actual episode now because we have a guest in our green room waiting.
Indeed. It's not like we didn't do this part already before. Totally.
It's not like the Deadite, I got possessed momentarily and forgot to record on the previous 2 minutes of talking. Totally didn't get possessed for a couple
Totally. Did not happen. What were you talking about here?
I don't know. Anyways, we've got Seth here from Hourglass Escapes to talk about the Evil Dead 2 escape room that him and his team made. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Seth.
Hey, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you again, Kris.
Nice to see you again too, Seth. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing very well, very well.
Awesome. So thanks for coming on the show. How about, since some of our viewers may not be familiar with you or Hourglass Escapes, you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the escape room.
Sure. My name is Seth Wolfson. I own Hourglass Escapes here in Seattle. My background is in makeup effects and film, starting in the 80s. Eventually moved into doing work for theme parks, wax figures, medical simulations, and eventually opened up an escape room in 2016. And then in 2019, we opened up the Evil Dead 2 officially licensed escape room here in Seattle, which is how I met Kris, our first official super fan. Go figure. I believe he might have been the first person to even message us asking about it. And he was our first contest winner. And then found out he was a little far away. I think Chicago. Is it Chicago? Or
that at the time, I was in
at the time. Okay, good. My memory, for my age, and then so I think we sent you some prizes and stuff.
Yes, we did.
And then eventually he just showed up one day, and we had to let him in.
I read a passage and opened it.
Yeah, we got a chance to meet him in person. But yeah, we put together the official Evil Dead escape room with some really cool friends of mine, and it's been kind of a whirlwind ever since. We had a really good build team. I mean, my builder, he probably watched the movie about 30 or 40 times just during the build to make sure the floorboards are in the right direction. And then I happen to have a really good seamstress named Andrea Hayes, who you might know from Twin Peaks as Heidi the waitress, who helps source the fabric for under the sink and also plays our Henrietta. And then all the video we got shot by Ben Rock, who was one of the original Blair Witch team. So, and then through Ben, we met Yuri Lowenthal, who is a super famous voice actor. He's been in almost every cartoon and video game. He's Spider-Man. I think that has a hyphen in it in the video games. And he was our Professor Nobi. And he's done a bunch of other voices for us. He's been fantastic. So, and then Donald Thomas Capello is our Ash in the game. And yeah, we started it. People seem to like it. During the pandemic, we did online version with me running around with a camera, acting like a fool. People at home telling me what to do. And we gave them costume ideas and drink cocktail and mocktail recipes, and we tried to make it kind of a party. We were one of the first to do that style and one of the first with characters, and it got us pretty well known. We got all kinds of cool people played, and yeah, that's where we're at with the Evil Dead stuff. That escape room, and then that parlayed into the Arkham Horror license for our Arkham Horror Mystery and Innsmouth escape room, which is also licensed. Which then, because of that and everything we've been doing, we just got the Tomb Raider license. We have the
Congratulations
Tomb Raider experience coming to Seattle, which is physically and spatially huge. It's going to be definitely the largest escape room in the Pacific Northwest, but it's more of an attraction than an escape room. And it's a little over 2,000 square foot of gameplay. Yeah, it's pretty wild. So yeah.
That's so cool. I have a video you sent here that's sort of like the announcement or like the trailer for the escape room.
Yeah, that's one of our commercials that we ran and still run here and there. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to show that right now for the viewers at home.
Awesome.
There we go.
Awesome.
I actually don't recall if I've seen that video before.
I'm sure you have.
I might have.
I mean, it could have been a while ago. Because I think that might have been part of the original contest was that video. That's why I swear. I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen it. Well, we all know you're like the ultimate super fan, which I'm really grateful for. I mean, I got to say, Kris was really, really pushed us and helped us get known in a lot of the groups and really was supportive before he even played the game. And then, which is, it's cool. So we're really grateful to our fans and Kris being literally the first one we had, like the first real fan. It was pretty wild.
I was just really excited and because the idea of having an escape room, especially an officially licensed escape room based off an Evil Dead, sounded, and even though I've already experienced it, it still sounds so incredible to me. It almost feels like a fever dream that it exists. So
I know how you feel.
I just love the fact that you guys have it, and like if I lived closer, I would visit like every month and like bring as many people as I could, because I absolutely love the escape room, and I was super happy to participate in the digital version and then eventually the in physical version of it. And I'm also happy that your Evil Dead escape room is the first and so far only escape room that I've ever done.
Oh, I recommend doing more. They're fun. Just in general, there's tons out there. And most of them are really good. You know, I haven't played a bad one yet, and there's a ton out there. I think I'm on maybe my 150th, 175 of them, and that's not a lot. I have friends who've played over almost 2,000 of them. It's crazy. I don't have time, or I play them more often.
I know someone over here who was in the States recently. They were supposed to go to an escape room based off a very popular horror franchise that's unfortunately not Evil Dead, but they chickened out, apparently.
I went to go do the Saw escape room, and just the idea, I thought it was all puzzles. I didn't realize there were scare actors and stuff. And so we got into the first room, and I was like, I can't do this, bro. I can't. Nothing even happened. We walked into the first like hallway, and I was like, I'm out.
And the owner of those, Jason, is a fantastic guy, and his stuff is great. I played the It Experience, the first one there, the first part one, about a year and a half ago in Vegas, and it was so much fun. Yeah, he does a great job with them. So You probably would have been scared.
I know,
and he's a really great guy too. So everybody like who works there, they're super nice. I've only met him briefly on email, but I've met his team there, and yeah, I hate scary, like in person. Like I don't like haunted houses. I like to scare people, but I don't like to be scared. So I do get it. I get it.
Yeah. So my first question I have is about the licensing of it, because obviously with a bigger property like Evil Dead, did you reach out to the rights holders? Did they reach out to you? Like, sort of, how did Evil Dead come about, like, across your desk?
So I'm trying to think. There's some positives and negatives to this. So I originally came up with the idea for doing this project just as like a thought experiment. Like I wrote out most of the game like a year or two before we even thought it was a possibility. Just for myself, I'm like, oh, this would be cool. Like I have a list of IP related games that are my dream games that I keep to myself. I've got them kind of blocked out. If I ever did them, they'd change a lot. And I happened to be at Crypticon here in Seattle, and I ran into someone who was originally going to make an Evil Dead 2 board game that shall not be named, if anyone knows the history of that. And I was talking with them, and they gave me some info on the rights holders, and then I talked to some people in the film industry about what they thought and helped me put a team together. Like I talked to Ben Rock, and I talked to another buddy and got some advice from him who knew some people. And then I got in touch with them. The people that run the rights, it's run by a special company that runs these things. And that's how we got the rights. Eventually the whole board game thing, the first stuff happened, but then my friends at Lynn Vander Games with Jasco Games, and somewhere behind me in this blur, you'll see the original Evil Dead 2 board game that came out, where they actually gave everybody who should have gotten a copy. I don't know if you guys do that. And then they just did a new version where they did an expansion and some other stuff that I'm waiting on that. And I'm working on them for potentially some other projects. And I actually know them through other people, and they're great. And I love the board game. Behind me, there's about 300 board games on the shelf. I'm a big board game fan. And that's why I love their game. Is fantastic. It's a genuinely good game. Yeah. Most movie games are not that good, but theirs is just fantastic. So that, long story short,
you're fine.
That's how we got the license. We basically did a pitch deck with our team, where people like Ben and Andrea Hayes from Twin Peaks and Yuri let us put them in our pitch deck, so we could show, hey, we think we can do this well. Here's our budget. This is our idea. And then that got approved through the licensing company. And then we just worked with them to get it out there.
That's awesome. We actually had a couple of the guys from Lynn Vander on the show about a month ago to talk about the board game expansion. So
Tommy and the owner, Tommy Gofton, and probably Josh and maybe Dylan.
Yeah, I think we had Josh and Dylan.
Yeah, I don't know if Tommy was able to make it, but yeah.
Okay, yeah. And they are some of the best board game designers on the planet too. And it's just, they're great. I talked to them recently. So yeah.
I've got some pictures here that you sent in. So I thought maybe so we can give people a taste of what the escape room will be. I can pull them up on screen.
Yeah, I can.
There we go. So tell us what this is.
So this is from inside the cabin. The fog is not real. It is there to hide, because the ceiling. So in our building, because of sprinklers and other stuff, we basically black out the ceiling, because in truth, in escape rooms, nobody looks up. But we've got the Necronomicon, which is placed squarely on a tree stump that's broken through the floor. The idea of the game is this kind of is happening between everything, whether it's Ash is still traveling back in time, or maybe he has. But the idea is Ash is kind of in this limbo, and you're trying to help him escape so he can then finish the book. And the idea is you're trying to find the missing pages, find the Kandarian dagger, and stab the book and say the proper incantation, which took me a while to find. I had to like go through subtitles and the right version because it's not really written down many places that I could find. So we went off the subtitles to figure out what the full incantation was that is at the end of the movie. And then you can even see we have the correct make, model, and year Panasonic tape recorder. We tried to do our best to be as authentic as we can within our means and within the space. We had to shrink the cabin. Obviously, we didn't have 1,000 square feet to build a full cabin in a 500 square foot space. But we tried to hit all the nods, and you'll see the deer, the tape recorder. You can see the mirror off the side. Because there, certain things in that movie are characters in a lot of ways, or there's so many iconic parts in this movie that I don't think it's hard to explain when you experience. If you experience this movie when it came out and now look back and see how it influenced everything, it's hard for people to tell this. Yeah. When you see this after all the stuff that's been in, they came after it. But, there's things we just thought had to be there. Like the mirror scene, I absolutely love that. Though I think in Evil Dead 1, it's kind of cooler.
The hand through the water.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So that's this, in that window, you can actually see the work shed looking out. We have a TV in fog, and that would be where the work shed would have been in the space, because we aren't traveling them outside to get to the work shed eventually in the game. So we wanted to give an idea that it is there outside. So when they do go into our truncated work shed, it's there.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then we've got a chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
Here.
So in the game, you do experience the hand. It's my favorite part is we get to flip people off when they get the puzzle wrong. So this is, we thought we did some promo shots with the hand holding the chainsaw. So you can see the actor, one of my employees at the time, DJ, is down there. And we did a full prosthetic. This guy, Tim Pearson, who's local makeup artist, he sculpted it for us. Myself and Alexandra Wright, we applied it into the makeup. Yeah, it's cool. Somewhere I think I have a couple foam latex stumps laying around. But yeah, the crew is fantastic on this,
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So this again, well, you can just ignore the top. That's blackout. So, again, we mimicked as much as we could. You've got the Home Sweet Home, which we got from, if you've ever seen Book of the Thread, the Needlepoint Evil Dead official.
Oh yeah.
So, oh my gosh, and it's a fantastic book. And I apologize. I'm blanking on her name. I feel horrible for this, but she actually handmade this for us. And if it's still available, buy the book. Her
I wanted to get it.
Really, really good. I actually somewhere have like a stash of them. I bought a bunch just because I'm like, I got to keep these. So then that's supposed to be the front door boarded up. And then we replicated the clock as close to real as we could. There is some plans on, I forget which website it is. It's the, again, I'm blanking on things because it's been years since I looked at the sites, but it's like the Book of the Dead website, or it's the guy.
Oh yeah.
He's got all the props and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Through that, I believe somebody had posted, or he posted the clock plans, and then we hired someone local to build us the clock. And then it stopped at one of the times it stopped in the movie, because when it stops, every shot it's a little different. We learned this the hard way. Because I didn't want it to be stopped at midnight. I felt like that was not this movie. Mm-hmm. And then below you can see the trapdoor where we have the weird triangle shape that never made any sense. The shape of the chain. And then there's a hole in it because you can see Henrietta come up, which again is Andrea Hayes, the actress from Twin Peaks, who's local and also did all kinds of cool stuff for us. So yeah, this is our mini kitchen. Again, we couldn't use there. It's actually the rocker, I believe, that's over the sink in the movie, but we have the rocking chair in the game because we need people to sit in that. Because again, it's kind of an iconic thing. So we just had to find a chair that was small enough to put it up there. We made the oven from scratch to kind of match what we thought the original would look like. The fabric under there, we came pretty darn close to the same pattern and color that was in the film. It's slightly off because of what's available nowadays. I'm sure it was fabric they found. Mm-hmm. And then when you reach in the sink, something happens. That's pretty funny. So this is the kitchen. And again, we tried to match the wall materials that were in the film, because they did have each wall was slightly different. Also probably slightly different depending on which set they were using, but we tried to match it as best as we could.
Yeah. Are these plates smashable? Like, does anyone ever have to break a plate over their head?
They are pre-smashed.
Okay.
No, but keep in mind, if there was a way to do it, we would. There's certain things in the movie we really needed to hit, and it's just so we have the cut off hand because that was something that to me is a main character in the film, and we had to do that. And I think we did it pretty well. I'm very happy with it. Originally we were going to try to use a gun with a light sensor to make a puzzle by shooting, but there's too many issues with that, with technology, but also safety, and just perspective and stuff. So the gun is above the door, one of the doors. But we did match the gun holder. You can see it. It's a deer hoof gun holder, just like in the movie. Though in the movie, I believe it's over the kitchen door. In the other door, we moved it here because we need them to see the north symbol above that door. So there's a lot of things we had to manipulate to get people to draw their eye certain places. But we still tried to be as detailed oriented as we possibly could.
I'm just getting
through the kitchen. The fridge has a cool purpose. We've got some Campbell's soup there. There's a lot of cool stuff, and I'm trying not to give away stuff. There's a hole in the door in one of the walls that is part of another thing. Just another shot of the recorder. I just sent you a bunch of random stuff, so a lot. This is with some of the lighting that's in the show. So, I'm afraid a lot of these might be redundant.
Yeah. Is the briefcase over there?
Yeah. So we wanted to get, so it's changed a little bit over time. And, as people change and play styles change. So originally they were giving characters to play. The idea was we wanted people to be ghost hunters. So that's their ghost hunting case that's got equipment in it. The game still has the equipment, but we've kind of got a way of giving people roles because we realized it added a layer of difficulty, but not fun. So now for the online version, when we were running around with cameras, it added a lot of fun because we gave people costumes they could find from things in their house already while they're in quarantine. So it was kind of an important thing. We gave them catchphrases as well. So there was we tried to basically give them a funny character to play. Because again, if people remember, it sucked. You're stuck, and you can't leave, or nobody knew what was going on. So we tried to do everything we could to make it a party, even if somebody was playing by themselves and their friend was in another country or continent. We had people play from every continent, but Antarctica, sometimes multiple at once. Yeah,
wow,
it was pretty wild. Just a close up of the clock, which. I'm really proud of the guy who built that. I can't remember his name offhand, but he did a fantastic job.
It looks really good.
Yeah.
I think that's all of them.
I realize super cool. I realize how difficult it is to try and talk about without spoiling anything.
I would love everybody, all the listeners to fly into Seattle and play, but I also know they're not. So
do you still offer the online at home?
No, I don't ever want to do that again. I don't know how to describe. So, I was in that cabin with the camera stuck to me for about 6 to 8 hours a day for 3 to 4 months solid, 7 days a week. There was a snowstorm where I lived there in the escape room office. I was staying in the pirate ship because it had the ocean sounds to make me sleepy. But I was living there because, you know, we had games booked, a snowstorm hit. And if I didn't run those games and did refunds, we were out of business.
Oh, man.
And, you know, though that online game was able to help me bring back employees. And then I had one other person I trusted to run that game, Jules, when she worked for me, because she just played the female version of my character. And it was great. It was, I mean, we had, you know, every camera move is choreographed because I need them to look at something without them feeling like I'm forcing them to find it. So I could time the game. So if a group was struggling, I could give them hints without them knowing they were getting hints by the way I placed the camera or my headlamp. Or if a group was going really fast, I made it a little harder for them to play. So everybody would get their money's worth. And nobody would ever lose. And nobody would ever win feeling like I even helped them. You know, and we just wanted them laughing the whole time and having fun, you know? So, yeah.
I distinctly remember how nice the session went that it was me and my friends and you were the camera operator.
Yeah. I mean,
the
it was
online version. Yeah.
It's, we recorded a few for just training and they were just so much fun. But yeah, after 3 or 4 months, it was physically demanding.
I can imagine.
You know, and then mentally, it was really weird after a while. I mean, it's like, because at some point you just don't even realize you've ran 3 games because you're literally thinking about other stuff or just you're mentally turned off. And you suddenly realize everybody's laughing and you must have been saying the right thing. And they're cheering because they won. Like it's kind of weird and indescribable. But it was also hellish.
I can imagine. So, the pandemic era was rough.
Yeah, but I'm grateful that the folks who own the license let us do it, you know, because it had to go through Studio Canal and they approved it and they were, you know, they're like, you can do this during the pandemic. And I you know, I'm really grateful for that.
Cool. You'd mentioned in sort of the intro of it that there's some actors in it. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, within video. We don't have live actors in it. Yeah, so there's a video of Henrietta that triggers. Depending if you solve something without it super fast, you never see her. But if not, she sings Hush Little Baby and then turns into the Deadite. And then pops up here and there. Basically, she's giving a clue. And then at the end, she, you know, appears and, you know, says, swallow your soul. We have Ash in the mirror. And Donald, who is an established actor, did a fantastic version of Ash because our actors are doing the characters. They're not mimicking other actors doing it because it's not, it's just not right because then you might as well hire the regular actors. And it's just not appropriate to hire somebody to mimic another actor. But he really pulled it off and did a really good version. And then we had the hand. And then we have some cockroaches that appear. And, yeah, there's some, it's not you know, we didn't really push it as a scary game. We wanted it to be a funny game. There's a couple like jump scares, but it's too hard. It was too hard for us within our budget to pull off a genuinely scary game. And that movie to me is just an outright comedy anyway. Yeah. So we really leaned into that. But yeah, so that's the actors. And then Yuri on the tape recorder, who, yeah, he's just a fantastic guy because he's also obsessed with Evil Dead. He loves that, which is really good. So yeah.
Cool. Have you ever encountered anyone solving a puzzle like completely wrong, or like in a very bizarre way, but they still get the answer? Yeah.
I mean, it's either they skip a step because it just clicks with them. I mean, sometimes somebody will accidentally solve something, and you're like, "That was really weird that you did that." But we're pretty good about. You know, when you structure a puzzle, you don't want it to be able to be brute forced. And brute force usually doesn't mean strength in puzzling. It means basically cheating or not even cheating on purpose or trying to be a cheater. It means sometimes you skip a step. And there's there's one or two puzzles that if you do them out of order, you can do them, but it's very rare that it happens. In our game, it's non-linear, so multiple things can be happening, but there's a certain path. If they do it, it makes the game, it's basically they jump to an end part, and it's fine. It doesn't mess the game up at all, but then it makes everything else harder that they need to do because they've just jumped into this other section. And it happens, maybe a couple small percentage, but it usually is people who either are really good at puzzles, but then it makes it harder for them the rest of the game, or it's people who've never done an escape room and just find this one thing because they're very observant, and then it makes the rest of the game harder. Because the way that we designed the intro path, and even though it's a multi-path, is they're all kind of like, oh, I figured this out. I think I understand how escape rooms work. And then the puzzles kind of progress in groupings as they go through. So if you figure out the hardest one first, kind of accidentally, then the easy ones, you're overthinking them. So, but we will change a puzzle like a year later. If suddenly everybody has trouble on something, well, the puzzle needs to be changed. We got to put our ego aside because it's not about what I think is fun. It's what a player thinks is fun, which is it's a hard skill to know, to remove your ego to a certain level and make sure you're on the player's side,
Yeah. Do you have a favorite sort of part of the escape room, or like a puzzle that's your favorite? I know you're not trying to give spoilers, but
I mean, there's a few things I love that it's not really a spoiler, but if you mess up the one puzzle, you get flipped off. And I love, like, we will have all kinds of corporate groups, church groups, synagogues, whatever you can think of, they'll come in. And they're like, oh, is this scary or anything really offensive? I'm like, well, no, but like little Billy can get flipped off if he makes this puzzle wrong. And then they just start laughing. They're like, oh, that's fine. Like, and they love it. And sometimes somebody will do it, get flipped off, and they'll get everybody over to look. Or there is a small jump scare that I think is kind of funny. And if nobody sees the first person get scared, they'll try to get somebody else over there. Like, oh, can you do that? I haven't had a chance to do that. And then they'll watch them get scared. I think, Kris, you know what it is.
I think I have an idea.
Yeah. And then, the ending, it's not because anything special about the ending, but there's just a visual impact at the very ending. That, again, I can't give anything away, but it's just, there's some really cool visual impact that works really well, even on the video. It's kind of like that opening the Ark of the Covenant moment.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
I need to go back.
Company trip to Seattle.
Yeah.
Hail to the Dead's company trip to Seattle.
Like,
Yeah.
You said you haven't been to Seattle, right, Gee?
No, I haven't.
Where were you at?
I'm on the eastern coast of Canada.
Okay, that's what I thought, but yeah, you got to get out here at some point.
It's on my list now, so definitely. Yeah, so you had mentioned that you had pitched this escape room to the company. Yeah. So obviously you must have been an Evil Dead fan before. Just a little. Just a little.
I would say bigger. I might even go as far at one point, probably bigger than Kris.
Cool. So how did you get into Evil Dead? I
worked at a video store, and I saw Evil Dead 1 on video. We had the copy. We had a lot of weird movies. For some strange reason. Well, I think the guy who used to buy the movies, this guy, I don't remember his name. This is in 86, 80, or 87, 88, something like that. He had we had this weird section of movies that were all the cult films, and he liked horror, so he would buy all the Cronenberg movies and all these really obscure horror films that I don't even think half of them ever came out on DVD. And I was obsessed with horror, so I would watch every movie we had in the whole video store at some point. And I watched Evil Dead, and then I heard Evil Dead 2 was coming out, and when it came out on video, which I don't remember when it came out exactly, but it's still probably when they were still $100 a videotape. This is VHS.
Oh yeah.
And I may have had a a VCR and a blank tape. Allegedly. And I think me and my friends, like, we only had a few videos because they were expensive. Like, they were not cheap. And well, first we rented it, and we probably watched it like 7 or 8 times over a weekend. And then we just kept watching it and wearing out the tape. And then eventually I got a copy, an official copy, and wore that one out. I must have seen it like a couple hundred times the first couple years it was out on video, because it was like one of like 10 videos I owned. And I just rewatched it. I was starting to get into makeup effects at the time. So when I saw the first one, and the first one I might have actually seen even before then through a friend who was teaching me makeup, because, you know, we saw like the style that Mark Sjöström did of like the brow. And we started copying that for like some of the zombies we were doing. And because that kind of became the zombie look for stuff. Even, you know, Deadites are not zombies. I get all that, but it's just like everybody started copying that, and it was in like Fangoria and Cinema Fantastique and Cinemagic, like all the. I don't even know if Cinemagic was a very obscure magazine out of New Jersey that John Dodds and some other people put together. And if you ever get a chance, you can find copies. But there was like, I think there might have been some Evil Dead stuff in one of those issues. And I just got obsessed with it and just kept watching it. So like when we did the movie, I had a list of everything. I forgot one thing, and that was the Freddy glove. And then some of the folks played the online one from England, from Demented Pictures. And they're like, where's the Freddy glove? I'm like, holy shit, I forgot it. And I ordered it the next day and had it put up. So there's a lot in the game. Because of my obsession, there's just one of the tarot cards has a rosebud logo on it. And then there's a cabin inside of like one of the snow globes. I mean, there's all these tiny little Easter eggs we threw in there anywhere we could. I don't even remember them all anymore at this point. You know, little nods to some of the actors. You know, I love Danny Hicks in Evil Dead 2. I would say he might be even my favorite performance in the movie. I hate to say it, but I just loved his acting in that. He was so great. And such a great character. Yeah. So anyway, that's where my obsession started as a makeup effects kid, trying to imitate any of that stuff I could. Yeah.
And are you still like up to date with Evil Dead stuff? Like, did you see Rise and stuff?
Yeah. I've seen that. I saw, what is it, Evil Dead 4 in the Multiverse of Madness, which is, I mean, honestly, that is one of my favorite evil. I do believe 100% that is in the same universe, because it's maybe in my top 3 of them, because it was so,
Yeah, I was gonna ask your ranking sort of the franchise, Jesus. Not to put you on the spot.
Okay, but all right. And I know, and I don't care if people like my ranking or not. I'm one of those people. I don't care what other people like. And if they care what I like, that's their problem. The hard part is where to put Evil Dead 1, which I think everybody will admit. So I think it is the most important because you immediately see Sam Raimi's style in that. Mm-hmm. And he's one of the very, very few directors. I can think of maybe 4 or 5 directors. When you see their work, you're like, I know who directed that.
Yeah.
I think the most fun movie is Evil Dead 2, but I think the most important is the first one because it defined his directing. Then I might go after the first 2. I might go to the series because it was so well done. I did not think it was going to be good. I honestly thought it was going to be horrible. I'm like, how are they going to pull this off? And it was great. Yeah, it's what, 20 years later they come up with another thing, and I'm like, this is going to be how are they going to pull it off? And it was fantastic. Then I got to really think, because I think maybe Army of Darkness, but then also I would say if Drag Me to Hell is in that universe, which I rewatched recently, I mean, it's a great film.
It's really,
I just
good.
rewatched that a few months ago.
It's heavily underrated.
I would put that, if it's in the same universe, I would put that before Army of Darkness, then Army of Darkness, Multiverse of Madness, then Rise, then the first remake. But I like more the humor. So the newer movies, they were great movies, but they weren't, I don't know if they're my kind of horror movie in general. So I don't know if I'm the best audience for those. But I like the new one a lot. But again, it's just a different movie. As a straight horror film, it was great. But as an Evil Dead film, it just it wasn't what I look for, but that's just for me. So I don't, and I know everybody's got their opinion. I don't, whatever.
You like the humor more than the horror aspect.
Yeah, because that's, I think that's why I like Drag Me to Hell so much. I think actually Drag Me to Hell, I think hits it right in the right spot for both. And I forgot how good of a movie it was. Because I saw it in the theater when it came out, and I hadn't seen it since. And I'm like, wow, this really nails that humor and really sickening horror.
Yeah, it does.
Right at the right spot. So yeah. So I don't know is there any other movie that's in that universe? I'm trying to think that he's done. I don't know if Darkman would be in that universe. It might be. Probably not.
Well, maybe
yeah.
Not.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, Spider-Man is also in the universe when it comes down to it.
Technically, because you definitely get Evil Dead vibes in Spider-Man 2, and Doc Ock wakes up in the hospital.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. And then Multiverse, I mean, it's literally an Evil Dead.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
I know.
It's a Evil Dead movie that you drop Doctor Strange.
I couldn't believe how good, because I'm not a big superhero fan, movie fan, and I loved it. It
was really good.
So anyway, and then we'll put in Quick and the Dead somewhere, which might be because that's what Sam Raimi's, isn't it? Quick and the Dead.
Yeah. Quick and the Dead.
Say that actually might be. Ooh, I put that on par with Evil Dead 2.
Really?
Oh, I love westerns, and I think that is by far one of the best westerns I've ever seen.
So what you're saying is, one of these new directors. Because you heard the news that we got 2 new Evil Dead movies on the way, right?
There's 2. I heard rumor of.
Oh yeah, it's confirmed. We have
confirmed
2 new
ones in the works
on the way.
Gotcha.
Like 2 different directors. Yeah.
Which universes though? Like, is it more the new style, or is one going to be one?
They haven't really said much. It sort of just got announced like this year, I think. They announced.
It's like it's
4 weeks ago or something.
It's 2 guys that have, one of them, their movie's already out. One of them they did, they're from France. It's a French film about an apartment building getting infested with spiders and other bugs and whatnot.
It's called Infested. I think it's on Shudder.
Oh,
yeah, it's gotten really good reviews. I'm
definitely never gonna watch that. I hate spiders.
Yeah, but he's doing one.
Yeah,
and then I think actually this week a movie comes out called like Last Stop to Yuma
County. The Last
County.
Stop in Yuma County. Yeah,
it
Last
Stop in Yuma County. Yeah, and the director from that movie is also doing his own Evil Dead. So I don't know if they're going to be.
Is that a Western Last Stop in Yuma County, or is it a hard?
It has a Western feel to it. It's like it's set in a diner, and what's going to happen is they find out that this guy and his partner that robbed a bank. They stop at the diner.
Oh,
and it becomes like a shootout type situation in the one diner, and like everyone wants to get the money and escape and run and whatnot. So
that sounds fun.
It has a Western feel to it.
Because I'm thinking like 310 to Yuma, the Westerns and the remake. No, I think it's cool. Like I like that they're doing stuff. I personally would love to see a little bit more like the new one. They put some comedy into it. And there's certain really aspects I really like. I like a little bit more, but I think the newer one, Evil Dead Rise, was pretty close to like what I like, and I think it was good. It was really good.
Lee said his favorite is Evil Dead 2. So like with Rise, he wanted to do as much as he could to have it be serious but also funny and kind of have that feel to it. So
I remember seeing the Red Band trailer and then the non-red band, and realizing the regular trailer was so much better because the red band, they were just trying to
here's the gore.
Here's the gore. And then they took out all the style. And when I watched the regular, I'm like, oh, this feels like something in that right universe. So I need to rewatch the first remake or the
2013.
The 2013.
Yeah, I don't even know it's a remake.
It's like a reboot and a sequel more than a remake because
aren't they all?
Yeah. They said it in a way in the same continuity. Like they said that then. And then now the new idea that they're going with is like, because you know how like the Book of the Dead and the Rift in Time and Space. So the idea is, you know how like there's 3 books in Army of Darkness?
Right.
The idea is all 3 of those are actual books. One is from Ash's World, one is from the 2013 film, and the other is from Rise. That's the mythology that they're going with.
I hope they actually push that mythology in one of the films.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's also theirs. They can do what they want.
True. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do think it would be cool if we could get a Western style Evil Dead movie. And it's funny you mentioned that because that one company that was originally doing the board game, they had comic books, and one of them that I particularly enjoyed was called Tales of the Ex Mortis, where it was like different stories across time and space of people dealing with the Book of the Dead, and one of them was a Western, and it was really cool.
Are they doing a prequel to the Evil Dead Rise?
We don't know.
I've heard rumors, but again, it's just rumors that they're going to go back to like where Bruce Campbell's character was.
So Lee, the director of Rise, has said he has multiple ideas that are already not fully written, but like kind of fleshed out of what he wants to do. And I know he said he wants to do something with the priests on the audio recording when they went to go get the book, and like
that would
do kind of like maybe
I would love that.
Yeah.
I'd love, though I also would love to see a comical Evil Dead in space.
Honestly, that would be funny.
They keep cranking them out though. Like it only took Friday the 13th like 10 movies to send Jason to space.
I love Jason X. I'm sorry, but that is one of my favorite Friday the 13th
It's films not a bad
because
movie.
It makes fun of itself.
It's funny.
Because they're all, I mean, the
goofier
Jason Takes Manhattan. I mean, it was making fun of the Muppets Take Manhattan just with the title.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I like the direction they're going, and I think as long as they they keep the quality up, which they seem to be, I'm all for it.
Yeah. And Sam said, well, Bruce has said this in relation to a conversation with Sam, that they don't want to wait 10 years to do another Evil Dead movie. They're like, you know what, let's crank some more out. And people are worried that means the quality is going to go down, but I personally don't think so. Sorry, there's a deadite that keeps coming in and out of the apartment. That's what you're probably hearing in the background, but
I didn't hear anything.
But they said they want to keep cranking more out, and it's like personally, I trust Sam. Like, I don't think even with my least favorite Evil Dead entry, I don't think there's a single bad Evil Dead entry. To be honest, I think they've all been good, and it's not like other horror franchises where they go up and down in quality mainly because a studio is saying, let's meet a quota and make another movie. It's Sam having discussions with new, young, and up and coming filmmakers and be like, "Oh, you want to make an Evil Dead? Give me your pitch. I like it. Let's
that.
Go ahead and do it."
No, I mean, I think it's really gracious of him to be helping people do all this kind of stuff and really supporting them. So because he's I'm not sure what his next film is. I know there was something announced, wasn't there?
I think he's rumored to be doing the next, because I know the Avengers Kang Dynasty movie that was gonna happen, the next sort of Avengers film. I know they lost the director for that, and I think because he did so well with Multiverse of Madness, it was rumored he might be, or he's on their short list to direct it. But
I'd love to see him do if Tarantino's not going to do a Star Trek film, I really do think he could do a great Star Trek film, you know, or Star Wars. Like, I'd love to see him do one of those. I'd love to see him do sci-fi.
I could see that. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like Sam is such an amazing and accomplished director.
Yeah. Who's
had an amazing career. Like, you look at his filmography, he can do so many things. He's more than just horror, and he's more than just superheroes comic book, you know. And it's like, because I know there are people that think that's all he does, and it's like, I agree with Bruce. Watch A Simple Plan if you really want to see the fact that, you know, Sam is more than just horror and superheroes. So it's like, I would love to see. I want more horror and I want more superheroes, but I also would love to see him go back to doing other stuff as well. I just want to see him make more movies and TV shows and whatnot, because he is such an amazing filmmaker and whatnot. But we kind of got sidetracked a little bit there. Real quick, I do have a question for you in relation to your career. And that is, like, you briefly mentioned, you briefly touched on how you got started in the industry and how it led to doing the Evil Dead 2 Escape Room. I was wondering if you could go in a little bit more depth and detail about how you got interested in the entertainment industry and how you started working in the entertainment industry in terms of, you know, the special makeup effects, that world, and leading into eventually creating Hourglass Escape Rooms.
Yeah, so when I was a kid outside Philadelphia, there was a small little camp for teens, and like basically it was like a 12 and up camp where you could learn how to make movies. There's like Super 8, 16 millimeter film, like from all versions. And this is like this, there was nothing else like it. Maybe in LA there might have been, but I don't even know if there was. And my older brother had gone, so I was able to sneak in a little young at like 10 or 11 years old. And around the same time, there's a lot of like creature double feature Saturday, like on TV on Saturdays on little side channels. And I became obsessed with King Kong. Probably because the 1976 movie came out when I was like 4 or 5 years old, which is kind of horrible. But I became obsessed with the original and all the other old stuff. And then I somehow got a copy of like one of the Dick Smith monster makeup magazines in the 80s and started going to this camp. And I'm like, you know, stop motion would be really cool to learn. So there wasn't the internet back then. So I would watch movies at like 12 years old, figure out who did the makeup or the stop motion really at the time. And then I would like go to the library for California, New York, try to find out where they're at. And I call them up and be like, hey, I'm a little kid here. You know, what book should I get? And then they would tell me, and they were always really nice. And I started going to the makeup stores to try to track down stuff. And at one point I talked to a guy. Oh man, I wish I could remember his name. It's blanking on me, which is a shame. He was super, super nice. He's like, well, I could make you with armature for a stop motion puppet, but it's going to be like $300 just at cost. He was going to give me one basically for what it cost in materials, but $300 when I was like 12 years old, that might as well have been $10,000. Yeah. So he's like, you know what? Go to the library and get this book called Richard Corson's Stage Makeup. Go to your local makeup store and get a Ben Nye makeup kit. And he's like, just play around with that and see what you think. So I went to the makeup store, met some people there. They helped me out. And I started doing that. And then I got Savini's first book. I think it was called Bizarro at the time. And the second one wasn't out yet. And I started playing around with that. And I think I called him. I might have written him a letter because I was trying to make a full latex mask, but there's no place that had how to do it. There was a little illustration of, I think it was of him, like a cartoon in the back of a Fangoria magazine of how he did it. But it was like a joke thing. but it gave me a little bit of an idea. And I remember just calling him up or eventually I talked to him on the phone and he was super nice. And, you know, he gave me some tips. He's like, oh, I got this other book coming out. I'm like, how do I order it? And I think I ordered it from him on the phone, I think. And then he sent it to me, and then I sent him some pictures, and he gave me some feedback. And eventually I just started meeting people and just started apprenticing and working on stuff, stop motion puppets and makeup effects, and got to work. I was like the assistant to the assistant. So I was a nobody, but I got to work with people who were working with Dick Smith and John Dodds and all these other people. And I got to go on set to the show Monsters and like help remove some prosthetics, which was pretty wild. And, you know, I got to go to, you know, meet all these really cool, my heroes, basically. You know, anyone who was on the East Coast, my friend would take me up to their shop. And we just started working on low budget horror films, Zombie Army, which I have somewhere on VHS, which it was an incredibly low budget film shot on weekends in Jersey, Philly, and Delaware, which hit video stores, like maybe 100 of them. And then worked on another movie about the Jersey Devil that went nowhere. That was kind of fun, and just kept meeting people, and eventually just moved to Orlando, worked at Universal for like 7-8 years. Worked at the same time I was managing a makeup effects supply house, effects warehouse, and then made wax figures for a few years for Believe It or Not. Got to do a lot of the life casting and stuff. And then eventually got into medical prosthetics, doing realistic ones as a sculptor and a mold maker, and then ended up in Seattle to work for a company that made medical simulations and skeletons. And then basically I had to get away from chemicals because I had a serious health issue, and had to take a year off from work. They like just took a break, went back to work, and I'm like, you know, this stuff's killing me. And then opened up an escape room. It was like, I'd heard of one here in Seattle. Seattle had one. It was one of the first cities in the US to have them. There was like 3 or 4 at the time. Played one. I'm like, you know, I think I could make one that looks really cool. Because like I had scenic background stuff for my time at Universal. And yeah, that's kind of how it all started. Wow. I hope that was the question. That was a long segue.
You're fine. Like you, okay. Like you basically were like hitting all of them.
Yeah, I'm old, so it takes a long time to go through the whole stories. If
you're not old, stop.
Oh Jesus.
That's cool. Actually like, yeah, I was gonna say that's really cool. Like how it's almost like how they say, like, you know, like with networking in terms of like how each thing that you did helped lead to the next totally bigger and better thing.
Talent's part of it, but you got to be willing to just bust your ass. There's always someone who's better than you, who's there. I mean, there always is. There's so many people better at everything than I am. And then there's going to be people better than them. There's going to be people who are going to work harder, but you got to work as hard as you can. But you also have to be easy to work with. Nobody wants to deal with drama.
Yeah.
If you're like, I've worked with people who are not the best artists, maybe even horrible workers, but they're a pleasure to be around. And you're like, I would rather help this person and work a little extra to keep them here and work with this person who's a pleasure to be around than work with some asshole. I don't know if I can curse on this or not.
No, yeah.
No,
totally. You're
you
know, had Dana on here and she was dropping F-bombs left.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, even at the escape room, like we have a no drama policy. We have a very, very low turnover, you know, because if somebody brings that kind of stuff, we get rid of them. I have some great people working for me now. And like, when they do move on, like we try to help them move upward and onward, because again, you know, how many people want to work in an escape room their whole life other than me? And like, it's, you know, I mean, at some point we know they want to get somewhere. So we're like, hey, let's help them, as opposed to let's get mad if they, you know, don't stick around. You know, I mean, again, they're great people, and I love seeing them succeed in their thing, because eventually maybe that networking is going to come back. And that's how we got this Tomb Raider thing. It was just trying to be easy to work with, especially when you're dealing with licensing. A lot of licensing, And I don't know how much you've dealt with people with that. You might have with Lynn Vander. It's a challenge, but part of it is you've got this rule set. And you can either go, oh, this rule set sucks, they're not letting me do anything. Or you can go, wait a minute, the rules are here, so I don't get sued. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. And so the people who give me that license, they don't get sued. So let me work. They're not doing it to harm me. They're protecting me. So let's work together. So if you're a pleasure to work with, then they're like, hey, I have this other license for you. So, what was great is we worked, I got a letter of recommendation from the people who gave us Evil Dead that were easy to work with. That's not something you normally, I probably may have been the only person to ever ask that. And then when I went to Asmodee when they approached us for the Arkham Horror license, we worked with them. They're fantastic. And afterwards I'm like, hey, what can we do if we do another project? What could we have done better to be a better partner? And we got really good feedback. And then they knew the person who was at Tomb Raider looking for someone. And that guy calls me now because they're told I'm easy to work with and do a good job. So it's just, it's all about networking and just, helping people out who are starting. Everybody's got to start somewhere. You shouldn't get mad at people. If they're making an honest mistake because they're trying hard, help them not need to try as hard, to just help them learn and do better. So, it's all about networking. I'd be nowhere if, like, when I was 10 years old, 12 years old, these, people, well, I thought they were old, they're probably in their 20s and 30s, weren't super gracious and like spending 5 minutes with me on the phone or having me come out to their shop. It was amazing. I kind of feel like, I know it sounds like an old man, but I feel like the internet kind of ruined it. It just flooded everybody to the point where nobody can answer the phone anymore to help those people out as easily. Yeah. They want to, and they do, but it's just, I was at a time where how many people do you think were calling up, some of these makeup artists, how many kids were calling up going, hey, you're one of my heroes. You know what I mean? So it just, now it's just tougher. I don't envy, I think it's harder for kids today, and well, everybody today trying to get into the business, I didn't think, yeah.
Oh, I thought it froze for a second.
I thought we all froze for a second.
No,
because you paused, and I
just paused. I'm like, I'm just going to shut up now. So I just stopped.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
We're coming up on an hour now. Seth, is there any final notes you'd like to share with our listeners, and let them know where they can find you in the escape room online if they're interested in going or following you guys?
Yeah. You can find us at hourglassescapes.com for all our escape rooms now. I'd love if people would check out TombRaiderSeattle.com and follow us on both. Hopefully you can come out and see the escape room sometime, and then eventually come to the Tomb Raider experience. Hopefully this October, we're planning on opening. But yeah, just keep watching horror films and movies and doing stuff you like, and play some escape rooms near you. I think hopefully people get hooked on those, and it becomes even more common, and we get more officially licensed escape rooms and stuff out there. And maybe one day you can have Kris as your super fan. I'm busting your balls, Kris, but seriously, I cannot thank Kris enough. Really, he was this champion for us that I don't think we would have been nearly as popular without him going on the forums and be like, oh, hey, I played this, or hey, this looks cool, because he's always so positive about things, so it is really appreciated. So, and
you made a quality escape room, and
I hope so. I'll tell you, I'll leave you this thought. There's nothing scarier than having somebody, like a couple, fly out from Florida all the way to Seattle to play your escape room and then leave the next morning and hope that they like it. Because imagine if they thought it was crappy. And that's happened a few times, and they've liked it every time, but it's always kind of scary, because that's a lot of money to spend on something. Yeah. And I'm like, why did you do that? What if you hate it? It's, it's okay to hate it. It's okay that, it's not for everybody, but yeah.
Objectively speaking, I can't see any reason to hate the Evil Dead 2 escape room. Legit. without sounding like a kiss ass or anything like that, and without sounding like a fanboy, because obviously I love Evil Dead. I genuinely think it is a amazing escape room for both fans of Evil Dead and people who aren't fans of Evil Dead, whether they're fans of escape rooms or they have never, because like me, like I said, I've never done an escape room before, ever, and that was my first one, and I had a really good time. It was fun.
I really appreciate that.
It was challenging, and I appreciated the subtle hints along the way, because there were times where I got lost and my parents got lost and my friend got lost, but it is legitimately a really well done and well put together escape room, and especially as an officially licensed escape room for Evil Dead 2. Like,
I appreciate that. We had a great team. I mean, our team does such a good job. I mean, nothing would happen without everybody on the team. None of this would ever happen. You know, I just come up with some stupid ideas and then have other people make them better. Like it's hard to take credit for this when you have such a good team, you know, and I appreciate Gee, you having me on. I love what you guys are doing with the franchise and just like do a positive podcast about such a cool thing. It's fantastic.
Thank you. Cool. Well, I think that's going to be it for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments if you've done the Evil Dead 2 escape room and what you thought of it, because it'd be cool to hear from some people that have done it, or if people that want to go do it. Thank you to Seth for coming on the show and talking about the escape room. It was really cool. And yeah, that's going to be it for today's episode. So thank you so much for watching, and stay groovy.
Stay groovy.